I was falsely accused by the school beauty of stealing something. And yet, on my birthday, my childhood friend brought her to reconcile with me. We're all classmates. There's no need to make things so awkward. Indeed, there was no need. So I threw away his birthday gift, destroyed everything that reminded me of him, and completely withdrew from his world. I planned to leave it at that, to remain out of each other's lives. But then, years later, at a class reunion, he spotted me across the crowd, under everyone's gaze. My childhood friend, who was always the center of attention, turned red with anger. Was it fun? You've been avoiding me for 8 whole years. The classroom door was crowded with people during the break. Everyone was craning their necks to look into class 3. In just one day, the rumor that Lorelei, the school beauty, had falsely accused someone of stealing spread throughout the school. At this moment, she was sitting at her desk, crying bitterly. Many classmates gathered around to comfort her. But there were also plenty who cast their gaze toward me. Yes, I was the one she had falsely accused of stealing someone else's belongings. Sorry, Eloan. That day, I saw you in a plaid skirt and just assumed it was you. Sorry. I shouldn't have been so hasty. She was already beautiful, but with tears streaming down her face, she looked even more fragile. Seeing her so upset, many boys around me immediately turned their attention toward me. Eloan, Lorelei has already apologized, so you don't have to be so harsh. Yeah. The misunderstanding is cleared up, so why keep it going? But I hadn't said a word. I was the one who was wronged. The voices around me kept coming. Lorelei just misjudged. It wasn't that bad. Why hold on to it? Everyone was staring at me. They were all waiting for me to speak and comfort Lorelei. After all, Lorelei was the school beauty. Not only was she gorgeous, but she was also always at the top of the grade rankings. How could someone as invisible as me compete with her? I gritted my teeth and didn't want to back down. Then what about all the isolation and insults I've endured these past few days? Lorelei cried louder. Eloan, I'm so sorry. It's my fault. All my fault. I shouldn't have accused you before the evidence was clear. Can you forgive me? The more she cried, the more agitated the people around me became. This is ridiculous. Didn't she already apologize? What else does she want? Eloan, don't be so unreasonable. But I still said nothing. I had been accused unjustly. Everyone was looking at me as if I were the villain. Lorelei's not that terrible. She just made a mistake. Do you have to make a scene? With all eyes on me, the pressure was overwhelming. And yet, Lorelei was the one who had lied. After crying her heart out, she ran out of the classroom. Her best friend rushed after her, throwing me a sharp glare as she left. As if I were the one who was evil. They didn't know what I had been through. My parents had visited the school several times, pleading with the principal for leniency. For the past few days, I had been the target of countless scornful looks. I had nearly been expelled. The crowd slowly dispersed, leaving me standing there, my hands and feet frozen. When I looked up, I ran into Julian, who had just come out of the office. We were neighbors, grew up together, and he could be considered my childhood friend. I met his gaze. His eyes were beautiful. There was always a coolness when he looked at others. But when he looked at me, it's often slightly. But at that moment, there was a trace of reproach in those eyes. I immediately realized Julian was angry with me too. When Lorelei ran out crying, she lost her footing and tumbled down the stairs. She twisted her ankle. Julian was the one who took her to the infirmary. He carried her in his arms. I locked eyes with Lorelei. Even with her swollen eyes, I could see a hint of satisfaction flashing through them. I froze for a moment. So this whole thing had been planned from the start? I followed them to the infirmary. I still wanted to know, did Julian believe me? Or did he trust her? But when Julian saw me, he couldn't help but scold me. Eloan, is this what you wanted? Now look at what happened to Lorelei. I parted my lips, but no words came out. You've only been through a few days of trouble. But Lorelei hurt her leg. What a laughable excuse. I lowered my gaze and left the infirmary. She had staged this whole thing. Yet somehow, I was the one blamed. Before I could leave, Julian called after me coldly. "Eloan. We're all classmates. Don't make things too awkward." I froze for a moment. A feeling of betrayal creeping in. Was this about avoiding embarrassment? Or was it something else? By the time school was over, Julian was nowhere to be found. Lorelei's seat was empty. Someone told me that Lorelei had hurt her leg and couldn't walk, so Julian had taken her home. A bitter smile appeared on my lips without me realizing it. I see. I silently packed my bag and left the classroom. On the way, groups of people were laughing happily together. I walked slowly, my mind filled with memories I hadn't expected to surface. My parents had divorced when I was little, leaving me to be raised by my grandmother. Julian was my neighbor, 2 years older than me. As a child, I was quiet and introverted, but Julian always protected me. When other kids in the neighborhood bullied me, he would always stand in front of me, defending me. Gradually, I became more and more dependent on him, following him around every day. And he always took care of me. But now why? The boy who had always shown me kindness, with a soft and gentle gaze, had finally changed his attitude toward me. When I came to my senses, it was already dark. Grandmother was pacing in front of our house, looking for me. I slowly shuffled home. I hesitated for a moment, then turned around. But the familiar figure I had once depended on was no longer there. The person I had relied on like a brother had finally chosen to abandon me. The next day, Julian was back to his usual self, waiting for me at the entrance of the neighborhood as if nothing had changed. I tried to suppress the expectations in my heart, wanting to ignore him and go to school on my own. But he was the same as always, handing me a bag of milk. "Let's go." He turned away casually. I watched his back and finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Biting my lower lip, I asked, "Julian, did you take Lorelei home yesterday?" You know, her leg was injured," Julian said infuriately, as if speaking about the weather. "But you should have told me." My voice softened. Julian turned his head to look at me. His eyes filled with indifferent emotions. "Eloan, it was just one night. You could have come home on your own." I looked at him, my heart sinking little by little. He was no longer the Julian who had always protected me. We walked to school in silence. As soon as we entered the classroom, Lorelei looked up and smiled at Julian. "Good morning, Julian. Thanks for taking me home last night." "You're welcome," Julian responded politely, his voice as calm as ever. Yet the smile on his face was unmistakable. I had never seen him smile like that before, soft, gentle, and warm, like the spring breeze. But that smile was not meant for me. It was for another girl. For a brief moment, I was taken aback. Before I transferred to Class 3, I had heard of the close relationship between Julian and Lorelei. Originally, hadn't fulfilled my Sasho. They were neighbors. But Lorelei had moved away, and I found myself intruding on a relationship that had once been theirs. I wanted to pretend that I didn't care, but I couldn't fool myself. I spent the entire morning avoiding Julian, not speaking to him once. During the break, Lorelei suddenly approached and placed a cup of hot water on my desk. "Eloan, I truly apologize. Please forgive me," she said. Before I could even turn my head, there was the sound of something breaking and then a sharp scream. By the time I reacted, I saw Lorelei clutching her hand in pain. "Eloan, even if you won't forgive me, why would you pour such hot water on my hand?" she cried, her voice dripping with feigned sorrow. She looked pitiful, her eyes watery, a damsel in distress. I stared at her, confused. I hadn't done anything. Hearing Lorelei's scream, Julian rushed over, his eyes cold in a way I had never seen before. "Eloan, you're really going too far," he said, his words biting. The entire class turned to watch, and the room fell into an eerie silence. Lorelei sobbed, "It's my fault. I wasn't careful and dropped the cup. Please, don't blame Eloan." Her attempt at covering up was so obvious. She wiped her tears, adding, "I just hope Eloan can forgive me." Julian pulled her hand, ready to take her to the infirmary. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stood up and grabbed his arm. Stop pretending. I didn't touch the cup. Let's go to the teacher's office and check the security footage. I really hated being blamed unjustly. Julian shrugged off my hand impatiently. Lon. Have you lost your conscience? Look at what's happened to Lorelei's hand. You're not rushing her to the infirmary. And instead, you want to watch the surveillance? I glanced at Lorelei's hand. It was slightly red, but certainly not burned. The water wasn't even hot enough to scald her. If she was going to put on a show, she wouldn't really injure her proud appearance and body. Julian led Lorelei away. The class murmured among themselves. And my chest felt tight with frustration. It wasn't long before they returned, Lorelei's hand covered in burn ointment. I overheard someone say that the injury wasn't serious. Julian's anger seemed to have subsided, but was it because Lorelei wasn't badly hurt? Or because he was no longer willing to stay angry with me? I sat at my desk, numb, my hands and feet cold, the noise of the world around me fading away. Suddenly, Julian sat beside me and placed a bottle of cold water in my hand. His tone was once again gentle. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I was just worried about Lorelei's hand. I turned to look at him. Confused. So, in your eyes, she's still more important than me? Julian furrowed his brow. What are you talking about? Lon. Stop being unreasonable. I took a deep breath. Julian. Your reaction has already betrayed you. For the next few days, I refused to talk to Julian. We rarely argued, but I couldn't stand the way his attention lingered on another girl. Julian couldn't take it either. One day, after school, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. Lon. Look. Inside a small gift box was a bottle of exquisite perfume Saint Laurent. No less. Even with Julian's affluent background, it wouldn't be easy for him to buy it outright. He softened his tone. Lon. Please don't be mad. Okay? I wanted to return the gift. But he stopped me. I had planned to give it to you on your birthday. But it's a little early. I think it's okay. Though. My heart fluttered. How pathetic. I had already forgiven him for most of it. That evening, when I got home, Mom called me. Lon. Have you thought about it? When are you coming to live with me? She asked. After my parents divorced, Mom remarried. I heard her new husband was quite wealthy. And she hoped I would move in with her to receive a better education. But I was still worried about Grandma and couldn't let go of Julian. I whispered. Mom. I think I'll stay here for a couple more days. Things between Julian and I seemed to calm down. He never mentioned Lorelei in front of me again. I thought maybe she had faded from our lives. But a few days later, I overheard someone say that after school, Julian had been going out for walks and shopping with Lorelei. My heart sank. The thunder roared above. On my birthday, it rained heavily. Julian was supposed to pick up the cake, but at the last minute, he told me to go instead. In the past, he would always bring the cake to me with a smile, saying, Lon. Happy birthday, as the candlelight illuminated his face, casting a warm glow. That memory was etched deeply in my heart. For a moment, I felt disoriented. It was fine. Julian must have something more important to do. That's why he asked me to pick up the cake. Maybe he had a surprise for me. But the rain was too heavy. And it wasn't convenient to ride my bike while holding an umbrella. So, I decided to walk to the cake shop and take the cake to the party. The wind howled. And I did my best to shield the cake in my arms. Most of my clothes were soaked by the time I arrived at the venue. Just before I pushed open the door to the private room, I heard Lorelei's laughter inside. Julian. Do you think Lon will really forgive me? I still heard Julian's gentle voice. It seemed like he had never spoken to me so kindly before. He said, You put so much effort into this. How could she not forgive you? Cold. It wasn't just the chill that seeped into my bones, but the coldness that arose deep from within. I reached out and slowly pushed the door open. The noise in the room abruptly stopped. Everyone looked up at me. They were staring at me, the one who was drenched and disheveled. Among them, there were several unfamiliar faces, likely friends that Julian had invited. I glanced at Lorelei. She was wearing a simple white dress. her long hair flowing smoothly over her shoulders. Her face lightly powdered. Petite and delicate. Compared to her, it seemed as though she was the real star of the evening. She had dressed so beautifully, so elegantly, while I stood there, covered in mud. I held the cake, drenched, standing at the door. Julian spoke. "Since you're here, come on in." I bit my lip, eyes reddened, and looked up at him. "Julian, yes, boy. Why is Lorelei here?" Julian explained nonchalantly. "Lorelei is here to apologize to you." "What's wrong with that?" "But you know I don't like her." "Lon." Julian's tone grew more serious. "Lorelei has prepared a gift to apologize. How long are you going to keep this up? Do you think I'm making a scene?" I struggled to keep the tears from falling. Lorelei arrived, well dressed, while I stood here like a drowned rat, becoming the joke of the room. And I realized on such a rainy day, he had sent me to get the cake alone. Likely to pick up Lorelei. Julian stood up from his seat and walked over to me, grabbing my wrist. His grip was firm, and I couldn't break free. "Lon. We're all classmates. Why don't you just let the misunderstanding go? There's no need to make it so awkward." "No need." Again. "No need." "Fine," hadn't fulfilled my sigh. Then. I didn't need to keep him hidden in my heart anymore. I took a small gift box from my bag and pushed it into Julian's arms. I slowly pried his fingers off one by one. When does someone finally let go of a person or thing they've been holding on to for so long? Perhaps when a heart breaks into pieces and can never be put back together. The day I left, I didn't tell Julian. It was just an ordinary afternoon. But for us, it marked the end. My mom came to help me transfer schools. She said that when my name was mentioned, a boy suddenly stood up, his face darkening, and asked where I had gone. "And then?" I asked. Mom smiled and answered. "I told him you were transferring to another school." And he didn't ask any further. The light in my eyes dimmed a little. Well, what was I expecting? From now on, there would be no more intersections between us. "Lon. Congratulations. You graduated and landed a job at such a big company. Your future is looking bright." I was snapped back to reality by the voice of my classmate Silas beside me. The banquet hall was lively, lit up by dazzling lights, luxurious beyond measure. 8 years had passed since I transferred schools. My stepfather had enrolled me in a good school. I didn't let down my mom and stepfather's expectations. I threw myself into my studies. When the college entrance exams came, I performed beyond expectations and entered a prestigious university. Now, I had graduated and been hired by a good company. Today was my high school reunion. I smiled faintly. It's all right. Everyone's doing well in their jobs now, too. I stood up and said to Silas, "I'm going to the restroom for a moment." Silas replied, "Sure. Go ahead." He turned back to the group at the table, clinking glasses. I went to the restroom and touched up my makeup in front of the mirror. After tidying myself up, I made my way back to the room. The opposite private room was also lively. Seemingly another class reunion. The hallway was still relatively empty. I suddenly noticed a familiar profile. Then came the sound of a glass falling from someone's hand and crashing to the floor. "Lon." The voice I hadn't heard in 8 years pierced my eardrums once again. It turned out, it was the Class 3 reunion? The voice behind me trembled. "Lon. You'd been avoiding me for 8 years. Was it fun?" The atmosphere in the private room was still cheerful. No one noticed the change in the hallway. It seemed as though time was flowing quietly. And the story in this unnoticed corner was so insignificant. I turned and looked at him, Julian. He seemed to have changed over the years. But in a way, he hadn't. The youthful innocence had faded. And in its place was the responsibility of a mature man. His features were still sharp. And he was still as handsome as ever. But now, this person was nothing more than a stranger to me. I looked at him with eyes devoid of any emotion. It had been a long time since we last met, but I had no words for him. Yet, the boy who once stood high, basked in admiration, and was the center of attention, had red eyes. "Why did you avoid me for 8 years?" he asked. I smiled faintly. "Julian, I didn't avoid you. He paused for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady himself. Back then, I thought you were just angry. I thought once you calmed down, you'd reach out to me. Yes, Hatish. He was still the same, always assuming I would come looking for him. No matter what disagreements we had, that I would always follow behind him and call out, Julian. But that was the past. Now, I was tired. I said, see? You still expect me to make the first move. Julian choked on his words. His voice trembled slightly. I did try. I tried to contact you, but you blocked all my numbers. Lon. How long are you going to keep avoiding me? I remained calm, answering, Julian, I'm telling you again. I'm not avoiding you. Then, Julian hesitated, wanting to step forward and grab my sleeve. I took a step back, avoiding his touch. With difficulty, he forced out the question. Then, can we ever go back to how things were? I laughed. And the sound was almost bitter. Go back to how things were? What was that like? Like when we were younger. I cut him off. Like when you firmly chose Lorelei over me? Just like years ago. When he unconditionally blamed me for everything. Making me go out into the pouring rain to fetch the cake. Leaving me to stand in front of everyone. Drenched and humiliated. And Lorelei, like a princess, looking down on me. The memories of all the grievances surged within me. I opened my mouth. No longer calm, Julian. We can never go back to how things were. Julian, perhaps used to being treated like royalty these past years, suddenly showed anger. His eyes narrowing as he glared at me. Say that again? It seemed like Silas had come out looking for me. Noticing the tense atmosphere had dropped to freezing point. Lon. Silas approached and tugged at my arm. She looked weary. But I no longer wanted to argue with Julian. Silas. I'm not feeling well. I'll head home now. Please tell the class for me. Silas looked from me to Julian. As if she wanted to say something. But then decided against it. Okay. I'll grab your bag for you. She turned to head back into the room to fetch my things. Julian stepped forward to block my way. His gaze held a hint of desperation. Lon. Let's talk. I rubbed my temples in exhaustion. Julian, wanadadasayo. There's nothing to talk about. I took the items Silas handed me and walked away. Without looking back. I made my way to the underground parking garage to get into my car. It was a gift from my mother for my 18th birthday. But before I could sit in the car, I heard footsteps behind me. Lon. It was him again. I furrowed my brow. How could he be so persistent? He was panting. Chest heaving. Seeing me so indifferent seemed to crack something in him. After all these years. You don't have anything else to say to me? He asked. His voice breaking. I looked at him coldly. No. Why did you leave without saying anything? Why did you transfer schools without a word? If I hadn't come looking for you, would you have never intended to see me again in this lifetime? I leaned against the car window, giving him a casual smile. Old news. Julian. Who would remember something like that after so many years? My words stung him deeply. He stared at me. And suddenly, tears welled up in his eyes. Don't remember? Lon. Why won't you remember? I smiled even more unfairly. Julian. Who do you think you are? His face drained of color. I'm not anyone to you. But I won't let you forget. I couldn't be bothered to argue further. I turned the car key to leave. But he stood right in front of my car. Lon. I won't let you leave. You don't know how long I've been searching for you. Back then. I thought you'd come back. Thought you'd contact me. But you left and I haven't heard from you for years. You don't know how happy I am to see you again today. Suddenly, the quiet parking lot was pierced by the sound of something breaking. So many things had broken today. I looked toward the sound. Not sure when Lorelei had arrived. She was holding Julian's coat. Lorelei had been by Julian's side all these years. They had both attended the same university and worked at the same company. It seemed that after Julian had run off, Lorelei came searching for him. Lorelei jogged over, linking her arm with Julian's. Her face pale, forcing a smile at me. Lon. Long time no see. You left without a word back then. and didn't even give me a chance to properly apologize. I maintained my calm demeanor. My face indifferent. Julian's expression paled even more as he yanked his arm away from Lorelei's grasp. Lorelei, confused by his reaction, looked up at him, her face full of hurt. Julian spoke softly to her. Lorelei, go back. Julian, Lorelei said, shaking his arm with a hint of dissatisfaction. What's wrong with you? Everyone's still waiting for you. Let's go back. Are you still mad about what happened last time? I promise I won't cause trouble again. Let's go back. She pouted, her tone almost childlike. Like she was claiming her territory. It reminded me of years ago. I couldn't help but find it a little amusing as I crossed my arms and quietly observed her little performance. But Julian, as if afraid Lorelei might say something in front of me, hurriedly pulled away from her. Eloan. Back then, my mother and Lorelei's mother were very close. And her mother even helped my family. So, don't say it. Lorelei suddenly screamed. Julian ignored her and continued, finishing the sentence. So, I have no relationship with her. I shook my head and simply smiled at him. No matter what the truth was back then, I had long since stopped caring. As I started the car to leave, Julian pressed his hands firmly against my window. He looked at me with pleading eyes. He said that over the years, he had never forgotten about me. Then he asked what he could do for me to forgive him. But listening to him only made me laugh. The person who had once cared for nothing, how did he become so deep and sentimental 8 years later? But I didn't want to dig any deeper. One by one, I pried his fingers off my car window and told him, just go. I don't want to have any more contact with you. The next day, I went to work as usual. Silas, a classmate, messaged me. Eloan, are you all right? Who was that person yesterday? I replied, it's nothing. Just an old classmate. Don't worry about it. Is it really just an old classmate? I felt like his gaze was a bit harsh. I'm really fine. Stop overthinking it. I continued handling my work while replying to her messages. Silas seemed curious and wanted to dig deeper. But I didn't feel like talking about it anymore. Suddenly, the company group chat exploded. Whoa. Whose BMW is parked next to the company? Actually, it's no big deal. Lots of people can afford a BMW now. No. I saw the owner. He's so handsome. Upstairs. Stop being such a fangirler and keep your drool to yourself. The last time the group was this lively was when Mrs. X publicly slapped the mistress. Then, Hell let out a low sigh. Images of the BMW and its owner were shared in the group. I stared at the screen in shock. The person in the pictures was Julian. He was leaning against the BMW, his expression slightly gloomy. I frowned. This person really never left me alone. I hadn't planned to deal with it. But having him block the company door wasn't ideal. After some thought, I stood up and walked to the company entrance. It was as though Julian sensed my approach. His gaze immediately locked onto me. I walked up to him. What are you doing here at my company? And how did you know I work here? He twitched his lips. I asked your classmate. Great. Maybe it was Silas Bigmouth that spilled the beans. We need to talk. Okay? He said. There's nothing for us to talk about. There's a lot. Julian said seriously. I've wanted to say a lot to you over the years. But I haven't. Julian fell silent for 2 seconds. You should know. The one thing I'm not short of is patience. Do as you wish. But please don't disturb the peace of our company. With that, I turned away, my gaze leaving him as I walked back into the office. Julian didn't leave. Many people peeked over their desks to look at him. Who is that? I just saw Eloan go downstairs. Is he someone Eloan knows? Whispers and gossip spread, distracting everyone from their work. Even the managers were alerted. I was called into the manager's office. Eloan. Is that person downstairs someone you know? Maximilian, my department head, asked. Yes, had us, Maximilian. We had a small disagreement in the past, but don't worry. I'll handle it soon. Maximilian looked at me meaningfully. All right. Just make sure it doesn't affect your work or the office environment. Understood. Manager. Though his words were polite, they carried an implicit warning. When I returned to my desk and looked out the window, Julian was still standing there. It was starting to rain outside, but he showed no sign of leaving. The office chatter continued. A team leader stepped up and said, "Why are you all still gossiping? Finished your tasks? If not, you're staying late today." Everyone turned back to their work, but their curious glances never stopped sneaking toward the door. I checked my phone and saw a lot of messages from colleagues asking if the person downstairs was waiting for me. I didn't feel like dealing with them, so I stood up to deliver some documents. A colleague passing by to get coffee glanced at me. "Eloan. That person downstairs, he's not your ex. Is he? So intense. Women, head info so my sigh. Really? Don't make things more complicated." I shot her a cold look. "If you love gossip so much, maybe you should be transferred to the editorial department." After delivering the files, I grabbed my umbrella and headed downstairs. I stood in front of Julian and bluntly told him not to interfere with my work. His gaze was almost pleading as he looked at me. "Eloan. At least let me add you back on WeChat." "Forget it. Julian. I really don't want to have any contact with you. But if you stay here and disturb the peace, I'll have to call the police." With that, I turned and walked away. That evening, when I got home, my phone pinged with a friend request. "This is Julian." I rubbed my temples. "Who gave out my WeChat?" While I was still wondering, Silas messaged D again. "Sorry, Eloan. I didn't want to. But he promised me 20 yuan to get your WeChat." Crying. JPG. I, heading fulfilled session. No surprise. Silas. Always forgetting loyalty when there's money involved. Silas kept pestering me for more details about Julian. He even called Ethan, our mutual friend. We three had been good friends in high school. I briefly explained what had happened between Julian and me. Ethan, after hearing the story, angrily said, "Don't worry, Eloan. I'll help you teach him a lesson." I thought he was just saying that out of frustration. The next day, when I arrived at the office, the company chat group exploded again. The gossip these days had really skyrocketed, and of course, most of it was about me. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling another headache coming on. Was this ever going to end? A colleague, seeing me, rushed over, her voice full of excitement. "Eloan. Quick. Go downstairs. Two people are fighting." Most of my colleagues were staring at me with weird expressions, their eyes burning with curiosity and gossip. I blinked. What? It was Bridget, the colleague who had been passive-aggressively sarcastic with me yesterday, who spoke up. "Eloan. Impressive. You actually got two men to fight over you." I froze, a chill running down my spine. Could Ethan have been serious about that? I had entered through the back door, but upon hearing her words, I hurried to the front. Sure enough, there were Julian and Ethan, fighting. Ethan had a bruise on the side of his eye. It looked like they had been at it for a while. Both of them seemed to be refusing to back down, and if it weren't for the security guards, they might have continued. Maximilian was there too, his face clearly dark with anger. I felt a sudden pang in my chest and quickly pulled Ethan aside. Not only was his eye bruised, but there was also a cut on his lip. It seemed like he'd been hurt while defending me. A wave of irritation swept over me, and I turned to Julian with a sharp tone. "You started this?" Julian looked up, his face full of disbelief. "You didn't even ask. And you already think I'm the one who started it?" His face didn't look much better. He was in no better shape than Ethan, though his appearance seemed to matter less to him. He looked pale, his eyes full of confusion and frustration. "You started it." Ethan, standing next to me, winced slightly and muttered, "Eloan. I'm fine. Go back to work. Don't let this affect your day." I grabbed him, intending to take him to the pharmacy to tend to his wounds. But as I turned, Julian grabbed my wrist. His eyes were filled with something I hadn't seen in a long time: raw, unfiltered emotion. "Eloan. You don't believe me?" I pulled my wrist out of his grasp. "You wanted to talk, right? Let's wait until after work." and then we can talk. As I turned to leave, I caught Ethan turning his head and giving Julian a small, mocking smile. After work, Julian was waiting outside the office. But this time, he had learned his lesson. Standing in a corner that wasn't too noticeable, I walked out, glancing at him from a distance. Just as I was about to approach him, Ethan suddenly appeared, grinning, and stepped in front of me. Eloan. I stood up for you today. You have to treat me to dinner tonight. It's the least you can do for me. Julian, seeing Ethan, hurried over, holding up his hand to stop me. Eloan. You promised you'd talk to me. Ethan suddenly winced dramatically. My face hurts so much. Eloan. If you don't treat me tonight, my face might never heal. He made a comically pained expression as if to drive the point home. Julian's face darkened further. I gave Ethan an exasperated look. Fine. Hadn't fulfilled sigh. I'll treat you. Let's also invite Silas. Ethan grinned, dragging me away, leaving Julian standing alone, dejected. At dinner, Ethan finally admitted. Eloan. It was actually me who started the fight today. Silas gasped, her eyes widening in exaggerated surprise. Wow. Ethan. You really know how to make things interesting. Ethan continued, explaining. Julian didn't trust you before. And now it's time for him to experience what it feels like to be the one not trusted. I couldn't help but smile at his antics. But don't do that again. Alright? Does it hurt? Of course not. I never said it hurt. Oh really? Then who was the one shouting in pain when I applied medicine to your face earlier? Ethan went quiet. Silas was barely holding back her laughter. By the time we finished eating, it was past 8 in the evening. I had planned to go home directly, but then remembered something I had left at the office. I figured I might as well go back and grab it. Ethan offered to drive me. He parked at the bottom of the building and said he'd wait in the car for me. I grabbed my things from the office and went downstairs, only to spot Julian standing in a corner by himself. He was still there, looking like a lost, abandoned animal. I walked up to him and asked, after all this commotion, what exactly do you want to talk about? Julian was silent for a long time before finally speaking up. Earlier today, it wasn't me who started the fight. I hadn't expected him to still be stuck on this detail. It doesn't matter. Get to the point. No. It matters. Julian's voice trembled slightly, his eyes beginning to redden. Eloan. You never used to take sides like this before. I stared into his eyes. Julian. To me now, Ethan isn't someone else. You're the one who is. The word before felt so far away. Distant, oblivious too. Almost like it didn't belong to me anymore. Time had passed. And people change. I was no longer the girl who used to run after Julian, calling his name like a child. The cold wind cut through the night, making Julian look even more pale. He muttered the word someone else under his breath, as if tasting the bitterness of it. He gave a self-deprecating smile. A few days before your birthday, I was with Lorelei after school. She kept insisting that she wanted to apologize to you. On your birthday, Lorelei even said she had a gift for you and that she brought a lot of people with her, all to apologize and beg for your forgiveness. So I helped her out. Because her mother had helped mine a lot in the past, and my mother has always told me to take care of Lorelei. Our family owes her family a lot. But other than that, I have nothing to do with her. After finishing, Julian finally lifted his head, his eyes filled with expectation, waiting for my response. I wrapped my coat around myself tighter. All right. I get it. Is that everything? Now that you've explained, you can go. It's cold out. And Ethan's still waiting for me. From afar, I saw the lights of Ethan's car blinking. Julian's face grew even paler. I got into Ethan's car. Julian was somewhat incredulous. He ran to the front of the car and slapped the window hard. Ethan impatiently rolled down the window. Julian, with red-rimmed eyes, asked, after all these years, don't you have anything to say to me? Ethan rolled his eyes at him and snapped. Man, webos asai. Are you done? You've been haunting me for years. How annoying. With that, he pressed the gas pedal and sped off. It's actually quite laughable. The questions Julian asked, I had spent countless nights thinking about after transferring schools. Why? Why would someone as close to me as Julian suddenly turn to a girl he had just met a few days ago? I recalled it over and over again in my dreams. At the time, my parents had divorced. And I, who had always lived with my grandmother, was extremely introverted. It was Julian who pulled me out of that closed-off circle. He was always protecting me. Always making sure I was first in line when there was something delicious to eat. His presence had permeated every part of my life. So much so that I couldn't forget him for a long time. Even though I kept telling myself that it was all in the past and that person would gradually fade from my life, I couldn't let go. Fortunately, Harem fulfilled my obsession. Time is the best medicine. Time doesn't speak, but it answers all questions. 1 day. 2 days. A week. Harem fulfilled my anxiety. A month. 3 months. A year. When I finally thought of Julian again, my heart was calm. Everything was supposed to be over. But just when I had stopped caring, this pale and powerless explanation came back into my life. That evening when I returned home, I received another message from Julian. Eloan. Please give me one more chance. Okay? I calmly typed a reply. Julian, wachida-san. Let's end it here. But I don't want to. The messages came one after another. When you transferred schools, I thought you were just angry and would contact me again. But I waited and waited, and your messages never came. I wanted to find you, but there was no sign of you. I didn't expect you to block all my contact information. Eloan. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so selfish back then. All these years, I've been wondering if I hadn't made you go out in the heady rain to get the cake. If I hadn't brought Lorelei into the picture, would we have ended up like this? I stared at these messages, feeling nothing. I couldn't imagine what kind of expression Julian had on his face on the other side of the phone now. Then another message popped up. But you left so quickly. So quickly that I didn't even have a chance to explain. I stared at this message for a long time. And replied, Julian, Yingdan, was it me who didn't give you a chance? Every time. You always sided with Lorelei. Didn't you? Did you think these things were small? But when Lorelei falsely accused me of stealing, did you ever think about the consequences for me? And, Julian, you've always been so smart, didn't you see that Lorelei was lying? There was a long silence on the other end. I thought he wouldn't send any more messages. So I turned off the lights, preparing to sleep. Suddenly, my phone lit up. It was another message. I opened it and saw, Eloan. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Please don't hide from me. Okay? I searched so many cities back then. But I couldn't find you. But the hurt from back then couldn't be fixed with a simple apology. I shouldn't have relied on him as my only source of warmth and redemption. Depending on someone too much will only lead to a miserable loss. Even without that light pulling me out of the abyss, I can be my own light. I slowly typed, Julian. It's impossible now. It's over. Don't contact me again. After sending the last message, I blocked his number. No matter what he thought, it was no longer my concern. After that, the BMW never appeared near the company again. But every morning, someone from the flower shop would deliver a fresh bouquet. Eloan. These flowers were just picked. Very fresh. Wishing you a pleasant day. At lunchtime, lunch would be delivered as well. The variety changed daily. There were dishes from all cuisines. Japanese, Thai, French. When Silas heard about this, he came by my office every day to mooch a meal. He'd comment on the food while eating like there was no tomorrow. Someone even paid off my mortgage for me. All these things. I didn't even have to guess who was behind them. Silas couldn't help but click his tongue. Honestly, having fulfilled brand session, Julian is really loaded. I was a bit puzzled. Julian's family situation wasn't anything extraordinary. He must have earned this money himself after graduation. Of course. I contacted Julian several times, wanting to return the money. But Julian refused. He said he wanted to use it as compensation for the past. The next time I saw Julian was at a company team building picnic. The company allowed us to bring 2 or 3 friends or family members. So I invited Ethan and Silas. We had the picnic in a forest park. As soon as we arrived, I saw Julian from a distance. He stood not far away, in the wind, restoring that distant, aloof image he always had. He looked over, walked up to me, smiled, and said, "What a coincidence." Afon didn't hesitate to call him out. "It's really a coincidence, considering your office is probably a million miles away from here." Julian wasn't offended, just quietly watching me. I ignored him and helped Silas bring out the food. We didn't just bring snacks. We also brought a barbecue grill, planning to barbecue here. Julian spoke again. "I brought a lot of ingredients too. Let's cook together." With that, he turned to fetch his things from the car, but then rolled his eyes at his back. Silas nudged him and said, "Hey, free food. Don't pass it up. Besides, Aloan has already moved on," she added, winking. Ethan shot her a look of annoyance but didn't say anything more and walked away. When it was time for the barbecue, Ethan deliberately handed Silas a charred piece of meat. "Can you have some dignity? A little bit of food and you're bought off." Silas didn't bother responding. Too busy eating. Julian stuck around me, either handing me water or skewers. I barely acknowledged him, because behind him, I saw someone else. Lorelei. This person was truly laughable. On one hand, he told me that he had nothing to do with Lorelei. But on the other, he brought her right over. And then, Lorelei found some excuse to come over and talk to me. I thought she might have changed. But it wasn't until the boiling hot soup splashed over her hands, just like it did 8 years ago, that I realized she hadn't changed at all. The noise attracted the attention of those around us. My colleagues' gossip-loving eyes were once again burning with excitement. Was Lorelei trying the same old trick again? Did she want to ruin my reputation at work? In the past, she had succeeded. I had never really integrated into the 3rd class. Always kept at arm's length. But this time, before I could even speak, Ethan and Silas were already surrounding us. "Damn. How long are you going to keep this up? This is our company's turf. Do you have any idea who Aloan is? Besides, even if it was Aloan, it's your own fault. You brought this on yourself." A chorus of voices backed me up, and the tide was turning in my favor. Lorelei froze. The words she had been about to spit out stuck in her throat. She turned her gaze to the person standing behind her. Was she hoping Julian would save her? But to her surprise, Julian stepped forward. "Lorelei, that's enough. We paid off the debt our family owed you a long time ago. You don't have to keep following me around anymore." Lorelei's eyes instantly filled with tears. But I wasn't done. Without a second thought, I grabbed a bottle of mineral water and poured it all over her. She screamed as the water drenched her, transforming her into a wet mess. Once the bottle was empty, I tossed it aside and clapped my hands. "So you wanted to frame me for dumping something on you, huh? Well, now the record is straight. This is what I actually poured." "Wow! Aloan. You're amazing." Ethan cheered and applauded beside me, leading the charge. But I still wasn't satisfied. Lorelei was sobbing beside me. And without thinking, I grabbed her hair and slapped her twice. "You falsely accused me of stealing before. And I didn't even get to settle the score. Consider these 2 slaps your compensation." Lorelei was completely stunned by the sequence of events. Julian stood by, coldly watching, not offering any help. More and more people gathered around, pointing fingers at her. Lorelei couldn't take it anymore and ran off, crying. The company's team building event went perfectly. Everyone had a great time. Oh, except for Julian, who tried to find another opportunity to talk to me. But I ignored him the entire time. When it was time to leave, I got into Ethan's car. Just as the door was about to close, Julian suddenly rushed out and stopped us. "Aloan, I need to talk to you. This is the last time." His eyes were full of pleading. Ethan, irritated, spoke up. "If you have something to say it here." Julian stared at me deeply, as though he wanted to etch my image in his memory. "Aloan, On your birthday. I did try to chase after you. I cut him off. The past is the past. Don't bring it up again. It's not worth it. Julian's words caught in his throat. Let me finish. Back then. My mom called me. There was an issue at home. I had to go home and help for a few days. And I was distracted. So when you transferred schools, I didn't have the energy to focus on you. And then you never contacted me. Athan sneered. Oh, now you're apologizing? Didn't you already hear? Late love is worse than weeds. Julian was once again left speechless. After a long pause, he looked at me again. Eloin, will we ever meet again? Probably not. I replied coolly. Looking away. The company's sending me abroad for further study. At least for the next 3 to 5 years. The light in Julian's eyes faded completely. Also, headings also wife Sasho. Don't worry about paying off the mortgage for me anymore. I'll pay you back every penny. Do you really have to make it so clear? His voice was choked with emotion. I don't want to owe anyone anything. He stared at me for a long time. And finally, the word left his throat, fine. The day I left was a bright, sunny day. I dragged my suitcase onto the plane, ready to embrace a brighter future. I knew Julian was watching from somewhere not far away. But I didn't look back. Once I left, I never planned to reconcile. The idea of putting a broken mirror back together was a foolish one. I had experienced it before falling hard, and I would never make that mistake again. But on the plane, I ran into someone familiar. Ethan. Hello. Eloin. My new business partner. I couldn't help but laugh softly. So it's you. Finn decided to name the baby Summer. But later, when we attended a class reunion together, someone asked about the baby's name. And the room fell silent. Even the girl who arrived late, her eyes still red, was named Summer. The day after my wedding to Finn, I accompanied him to his college reunion. As Finn led me into the private room, everyone seemed a little surprised. Wasn't your honeymoon supposed to keep you from coming? Zoe's pregnant. Just had the wedding. And we were worried she might get too tired, Finn explained. I smiled sweetly, feeling how thoughtful Finn was toward me after 3 years together. We had originally planned a trip to the Maldives. And I had already packed the bags the day before. But when I suddenly felt uncomfortable, Finn immediately suggested we cancel and let me rest first. Everyone teased him for being a wife-loving maniac. When we sat down, someone asked if we had decided on a name for the baby. Finn said we should name the baby Summer. How do you like it? Is it a good name? But as soon as I asked, I noticed the entire room had gone silent, and everyone's expression seemed odd. I turned to Finn to ask what was going on, but saw him staring intently at the door. Someone stood up to greet the girl who had arrived late. Her eyes still a bit red. Summer. You're here. We've been waiting for you. You said you were coming back to the country yesterday. And we were so excited. Summer. True to her name. She had a sunny and bright personality. Even her hair was golden. But Summer. Summer. Was I overthinking this? It's a lovely name. Summer rubbed her eyes and walked toward me. She said that Summer was a beautiful name. It's been a while. Finn. She smiled at Finn, who stood beside me like a pillar. Why yeah. It's been a long time. Finn stammered. Was it just me? Or did his eyes look a little red too? As the evening went on, Summer suddenly got up, taking a cigarette from her bag, laughing lightly. I've got a craving for a smoke. As soon as Summer stepped outside, Finn said he was going to the restroom and quickly followed her out. The sound of his chair scraping sharply interrupted the cheerful chatter in the room. I sat there for a moment, feeling disoriented, almost as though I were an outsider. I've been sitting too long. The baby's protesting. I'll go outside for some air. I rubbed my stomach, forcing a smile and signaling to the others. I deliberately avoided walking toward the restroom. I was escaping. My heart was in such turmoil. But it seemed fate was playing a cruel joke. As I turned a corner on the stairs, I heard Finn's voice, tinged with anger and a hint of frustration, nothing like the calm, gentle Finn I knew. Why did you come back? Does it concern you? Summer leaned on the handrail, her fingers holding a glowing cigarette. Summer. I've got money now. But why? Why did you come back just now? I almost stumbled, realizing the truth. Even I, no matter how naive, could see the connection between Finn and Summer. Just then, it seemed like Summer glanced up, and I immediately stepped aside to hide in the shadows. Finn let out a low sigh. Don't forget you're married. What? Do you want an affair with me? I. Finn hesitated. I clutched my chest as I returned to the private room, only realizing my face was already streaked with tears. A while later, Finn returned alone. Summer never reappeared at the gathering. At least she left me with some dignity. 3 After the reunion, Finn continued to treat me well, even more so than before. I kept telling myself that Finn would never betray me after all. Everyone knew how good he had been to me over the past 3 years. His company was busy, and he often worked late into the night, but when he came home, the first thing he did was come to the bedroom and tuck me in, often teasing me about how, though I appeared delicate, my sleeping posture was surprisingly wild. One night, my baby moved more than usual, and I couldn't sleep. The clock on the wall showed it was already midnight, and Finn still hadn't come home. I was about to call him when I received a picture from my friend Luna. Zoe. Is this Finn? In the photo, Finn was standing at a bar booth, holding a drunken woman in his arms. The woman's face wasn't visible, but her bright golden hair struck me like a sharp dagger, making my heart ache. The baby seemed to sense my distress and kicked even more vigorously. I trembled as I tried to call him, but the call was immediately hung up. I gripped the blanket tightly, tears uncontrollably streaming down my face. I called again, and it was disconnected once more. After several failed attempts, Finn finally answered. Zoe. What's wrong? His voice sounded tired, rough with a slight wheeze. Where are you? Why aren't you answering your phone? I bit my lip, forcing the words out. I was in a meeting. Sorry. He coughed lightly, trying to change the subject. Can't sleep? I didn't understand how a man could lie so effortlessly, his face showing no hint of guilt. Pregnancy made emotions unstable, and now I couldn't hold back any longer. Finn, hadn't a fin up? You're with Summer, aren't you? I screamed into the phone. Why are you lying to me? There was silence on the other end, and then he muttered, It's not what you think, before quickly hanging up. I clutched my stomach and sobbed loudly. Exhausted, sitting on the bed as I stared at our wedding photo, crying even harder. The past 3 years with Finn replayed like a carousel in front of my eyes. From the innocence of our early days together to the warmth of living together, the time he proposed with tears in his eyes, to when he rushed back from work the moment he heard I was pregnant, promising to love me as much as he loved the baby. But this man, who seemed to carry another woman in his heart, why did he have to come and stir my world? What did I do wrong to deserve this punishment? And what did the baby do to deserve this? For that night, Finn still didn't come home. The next morning, as I was packing my suitcase, the door opened. Finn hurried in, snatching the suitcase from my hands and asking what I was doing. Zoe. It's not what you think. Can we sit down and talk? Then what is it? I stared at him coldly, his eyes bloodshot, his stubble growing. It was clear he hadn't slept the whole night. She was drunk last night. Just got back to the country and has no friends. So I went to check on her. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to misunderstand. Then why didn't you come home last night? She was drunk and feeling unwell. I couldn't leave her. Oh, so you had to take her to bed? I looked at the lipstick mark on his collar, a chill spreading through me. Did he think I was a fool? Finn finally noticed the lipstick stain, grabbing my hand. He said it was just an accident, that I shouldn't misunderstand. I shook his hand off, not wanting to be entangled with him any longer. Finn hadn't fulfilled my sigh. Let's get a divorce. That was the conclusion I'd reached after an entire night of sleepless reflection. Whether it was emotional infidelity or physical betrayal, I couldn't accept either. He froze for a moment. Then his face hardened. Zoe. Don't be ridiculous. Perhaps realizing his tone was too harsh, he softened his voice. Zoe. Can we just live peacefully again? Don't be mad, okay? For the sake of the baby. He still had the nerve to mention the baby. I rested my hand on my belly, feeling only sorrow for the baby. And for myself. So, Finn, having so felt, do you love me? He thought I'd softened. He smiled gently at me. I love you, I love you. Zoe. Of course I love you. I didn't waver. And do you love her? Finn said nothing. His silence was an answer in itself. Men, how laughable they are. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly, snatched my suitcase from his hand, and walked straight out the door without looking back. As I crossed the threshold, Finn's voice, having fulfilled my sigh, edged with mockery, came from behind me. Zoe. Do you really think your parents, the ones so obsessed with appearances, will ever agree to your divorce? Finn wasn't wrong. In my parents' eyes, saving face always came before me. If they found out that I wanted a divorce right after getting married, they'd scold me mercilessly. I could already picture their exact words. When I told Luna about it, she just hugged me tightly and wiped away my tears. Zoe. Stay with me for now. I sniffled and shook my head. No, no. I'll stay at a hotel first. Luna lived with her boyfriend, Ryan. It wouldn't be right to intrude. We were sitting in the hotel lobby when Ryan came bustling around, helping me with my luggage and checking me in. Patient and considerate. I gave Luna a thumbs up. You've trained him well. Luna grinned proudly. I'll teach you how to train your man someday. But the moment the words left her mouth, she realized what she'd said and quickly mind zipping her lips. Zoe. I'm stepping out for a smoke. I couldn't help but laugh as she slipped out like a thief. Ryan didn't let her smoke at home. She used to complain to me that she thought she'd found herself a fun, carefree boyfriend, only to discover that behind his rakish looks, he was actually a well-behaved, old-fashioned man. The exact opposite of Finn. When Ryan finished checking me in, he came over and looked around for Luna. I covered for her. She went out to buy some water. He nodded, glanced toward the entrance, and said calmly, Come on. I'll help you with your luggage. No need. Really. I can manage. You two should head home and rest. I took the keycard and suitcase from his hand, ready to go upstairs only to see Finn walking into the hotel lobby. Our eyes met. Finn's face dark, and as he strode toward me, his gaze flicked to Ryan, and his voice turned icy. So this is why you ran away from home? You already had a date lined up with your lover? Unbelievable. I tried to walk past him toward the elevator, but he yanked my wrist hard, so hard it hurt. I struggled, but couldn't break free. Let go of her. It was Luna. She stormed over, glaring daggers at Finn. Ryan came up beside her and wrapped an arm protectively around her shoulders. Anyone with half a brain could see what was going on. Finn's face flushed red, then pale, and he said nothing, not even an apology. It didn't matter anymore. I said goodbye to Luna and Ryan and went up to my room alone. When the doorbell rang later, I already knew who it was. What I didn't expect was that Finn had brought reinforcements. What's wrong with you? Every couple has little arguments now and then. Who walks out over something so trivial? Do you want the entire Summer family to lose face? My mother stood at the door, finger pointed at my nose, scolding me exactly as I had imagined. Finn held my hand and apologized meekly. Zoe. It's my fault this time. Look, Lorelei, your parents are here. Let's stop fighting. Okay? Come home with me. Disgusting. I shot him a cold glance, too tired to keep up a charade in front of my parents, and brushed past him into the room. After I closed the door, my mother smiled at Finn. Don't worry. Zoe's just hot-tempered. We'll talk some sense into her. My father, not one for words, merely glared at me and patted Finn's shoulder before joining him on the balcony. My mother's version of talking sense was whispering harsh reproaches. Mom. He cheated on me. Why should I forgive him? My tears betrayed me again. I'd sworn not to cry, no matter how wronged I felt. Yet the moment I spoke, the tears fell uncontrollably. Do you have any proof? Did you see him in bed with someone? Finn already told us it was a misunderstanding. Why won't you believe him? Do you think divorce is such a simple matter? What will people say about you? About us? Have you no thought for your family's reputation? Maybe it was the sight of me crying so hard, but her tone softened slightly. Zoe. Can't you just be sensible for once? Sensible. It was because I'd been sensible my entire life that they thought I was easy to manipulate. When I graduated college and decided to write novels full-time, they said I was embarrassing them, that all the other graduates had office jobs or were civil servants, while their daughter lazed at home. Even when I told them I earned more than a government worker, they dismissed it. What use is that? It's not a respectable job. Zoe, can't you just find a proper job for your parents' sake? So I gave up what I loved and became a government employee, doing dull, lifeless work just to please them. This time, I wanted to do something for myself. Mom, I'm divorcing him. No matter what. She looked at me as if I were a disappointment beyond redemption. Tell me the truth, do you have another man? Mom. I stared at her, stunned. How could she twist everything like that? And go back to your husband. Finn's a good man, handsome, successful, a company president now. You're really that ungrateful? So what if he had a little fling? Endure it. If you'd done your duty as a wife, kept him satisfied, would he even need to look elsewhere? My strength left me. I sank to the floor, hollow with disbelief. What kind of mother says that to her daughter? In my belly, the baby kicked restlessly, as if sensing my despair. Baby B, it feels like you're the only one I have left. That night, despite my mother's pleas and Finn's apologies, I refused to go back with him. I woke up to hunger the next morning. Arguing is truly exhausting. I hurriedly packed a few things and went downstairs to eat. But I never expected to run into Summer at the elevator. She saw me too and greeted me casually. Good morning. I nodded at her. I had no idea how she could act so comfortable in front of me, the legitimate wife, but I had no energy to engage with her. During breakfast, she, of course, sat directly across from me. Zoe. Sorry. She only had a cup of coffee and a piece of toast, leisurely enjoying them. Such self-discipline, it made sense why her figure was so enviable. But that sorry was entirely misplaced. It seemed like an apology, but the underlying tone had a touch of provocation. Sorry. Was I the one who got drunk and caused Finn to leave you to care for me? Sorry. I knew Finn was married, but still wanted to pursue an affair with him? I immediately lost my appetite. But, unwilling to starve the baby, I mechanically chewed my food, finding it tasteless. Seeing that I didn't respond to her, Summer didn't push further. She finished her coffee and left. I went to the hotel front desk, borrowed a printer, and printed the divorce agreement I had drafted the night before. While heading to my room, I called Finn, arranging to meet him to discuss the divorce. The familiar phone ring echoed down the hallway. I looked up and saw Finn walking ahead. Just as I thought he would stop at my door, he walked straight past it, without a second glance. No wonder. No wonder he was at the hotel yesterday. No wonder Summer didn't seem surprised to see me. No wonder she apologized. It turned out that she was sorry because the moment I left the house, Finn went to find her. Finn picked up the phone, and I immediately turned around, hiding in the shadows. The long-buried malicious curiosity surged inside me. Finn, my stomach hurts. Can you come over? There was a brief silence on the other end of the line, and I heard the sound of a key unlocking the door. He said, Zoe, I have an important meeting soon and can't leave. Please take a taxi to the hospital. All right? Huh. Just as expected. When the call ended, I faintly heard Summer's voice. It sounded like she was talking about shares. I tried to listen more carefully, but the call was already cut off. I sent the divorce agreement to Finn's office, along with a fabricated miscarriage certificate. When Finn came to the hotel to find me, he knocked loudly on the door. Luna answered the door, and Finn stormed in, ready to shout at me. But when he saw me, he suddenly went silent. I was lying on the bed, my face pale, the needle still stuck in the back of my hand from an IV drip. Finn's anger hadn't completely faded, but a layer of sadness soon replaced it. He stared at me for a long time, trying to speak several times. At each time he hesitated. Finally, heady fulfilledly, he stormed out to the balcony and smoked several cigarettes. When he came back inside, his clothes smelled of smoke. Seeing my displeased expression, he frowned, then went back to the balcony for a few more minutes. When he returned, he patted down his clothes and finally spoke, his voice shaking. "Zoe. You remember. You killed my child." At this point, he still wanted to manipulate me. I looked at him calmly. "You're wrong. This isn't your child. A child is the product of love. Not something you use to memorialize your ex or, no, commemorate your affair with a mistress." He turned away, unwilling to look at me. Perhaps because he felt guilty. Before Summer returned to the country, I always thought Finn loved this child. The day I found out I was pregnant and told him, he rushed home in the middle of a meeting, picked me up, and spun me around several times. So happy he looked like a child. He lay his head on my belly and laughed, saying, "Zoe. The baby says he loves you very much. I love you too." My morning sickness was severe. And every time I entered the company cafeteria, I couldn't stop myself from vomiting. He'd ordered delivery from 5-star restaurants, but I still couldn't keep anything down. So every day, he rushed home at lunch to cook for me and bring it to my office. Miraculously, the food he made opened up my appetite. Later, as my morning sickness eased, he still insisted on bringing me meals. Under his care, I gained 5 pounds in just a month. I started complaining about it and wanting to control my diet. He laughed, hugged me, and refused to let me diet, instead dragging me out for daily walks downstairs. During my pregnancy, emotions were unstable, and I cried over little things. Got upset over minor annoyances. He didn't get angry but would hug me tightly, letting me vent all my frustrations, as long as I didn't hurt myself. He even bought a bunch of parenting books, learning about newborn care, and promised he'd take care of all the diaper changes and baths. He said, "Zoe. From now on, there will be 2 people who love you. Our family of 3 will never be separated." Thinking of all this, my heart felt a twinge of pain. But that didn't change my decision. I said lightly, "Finn, having fulfilled my say, go back and sign the papers. Are you in such a hurry to divorce me?" Finn looked at me with a grim expression, as if I were the one who had cheated. I nodded. Yes. Finn seemed caught off guard by my decisiveness. "Zoe. 3 years of relationship, and you're ending it just like that? Do you even love me?" Finn, hadn't fulfilled my ansari. "I've realized you're quite the expert at manipulation. The question should be, why am I the one asking this? It's you who's been unfaithful. And yet, a man who's been cheating within marriage, why can't I divorce you?" He must have realized I saw through him. Finn gritted his teeth, stared at me for a moment, and slammed the door behind him. Luna closed the door, her face filled with concern. "Do you think you can keep this a secret?" Late last night, I had severe stomach pains and called Luna, asking her to take me to the hospital. The doctor said it was stress and exhaustion, with a possibility of a miscarriage. Sitting in the hospital corridor, I briefly considered just terminating the pregnancy. At that moment, a young couple walked by, the wife excitedly clutching her husband's arm. Holding an ultrasound printout in her hand, she kept exclaiming, Look, honey. This is our baby. We're having a baby. I'm going to be a mom." I had once felt that joy of becoming a parent. I looked down at my belly, feeling the heartbeat inside real and alive. The baby was innocent. I decided to keep him. The miscarriage certificate was forged. Finn didn't deserve to be the father of this child. I got out of bed, calmly comforting Luna. "Don't worry. I'll get the evidence of Finn's affair and file for divorce soon." "Zoe. I think you've changed. I admire you even more now," Luna said. "You used to be so gentle and non-confrontational. But now you're the new, stronger Zoe. How I wish I could always avoid conflict. But reality is harsh. If Finn is heartless, heading fulfilled Lear, then I have no obligation to stay faithful." I waited for a few days. But Finn still hadn't signed the divorce papers and brought them to me. So I had no choice but to call him. "Hello?" It was Summer's voice. I sneered, realizing that Finn had been lost in the comforts of his mistress's arms. "Where's Finn? I need to talk to him." "He's taking a shower." I glanced at the time. It was only 2 in the afternoon. Desperately thirsty. It seemed. Tell him to sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. I think that's the result you most want. Isn't it? I was about to hang up when the person on the other end called out to me. Zoe. She said, her voice filled with genuine remorse. I'm sorry. Her apology sounded sincere. But I felt nothing. No need. In fact. Thank you for helping me see what a jerk Finn really is. Finn still hadn't signed the papers. Not wanting to hear Summer's voice again when I called, I decided to send him a message instead. The last time we'd spoken over WeChat was that morning before the class reunion. When Finn had gone out to buy breakfast and asked me what I wanted. When are you signing the papers? As soon as I hit send. Finn responded with a voice message. Do you really want a divorce? I didn't understand what he was thinking. Was he expecting a polygamous marriage? Yes. So when will you sign? Another voice message came through. Wife, can we not get a divorce? Hearing him call me wife made my skin crawl. What about Summer? Are you willing to let her keep being your mistress? Finn didn't send another voice message but typed, do you really have to get divorced? I'd had enough. Finn, having fulfilled my assertion. You're being annoying. Be a man and make a decision. He wasn't acting like a man. I waited an hour with no response. I screenshot the conversation, found Summer in their group, and sent it to her. She replied quickly, Zoe. I'll make sure he signs the divorce papers as soon as possible. It turned out that Summer wanted Finn to sign even more than I did. I didn't expect Summer to act so quickly. One moment. I was trying to find evidence of Finn's infidelity. And the next. Summer sent me several photos. One showed Finn holding her hand at a French restaurant. Another had him hugging her while watching the stars. And another had him lying next to her in bed. There was even a photo of a used condom, one open in a trash bin. That was enough. I created a WeChat group with my parents and Finn and uploaded all the photos at once. Soon, Madame sorry. My mom called. Have you lost your mind? What will Finn's reputation be if you do this? Zoe. You're driving me crazy. Even now. My mom was still defending Finn. I spoke calmly into the phone, Mom. I didn't call to hear you scold me. You told me to provide proof. And these are the proofs. My mom fell silent. Then slammed down the phone in anger. When Finn called, I had just arrived at the courthouse to submit my divorce petition. Along with the photos. Zoe. I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. Oh, now you know. I agreed to the divorce. We'd been married. And there's no need to drag it out any longer. Don't act like you had a choice. I've already submitted the petition to the court. If you don't agree, I'll take the legal route and still be able to leave you. After all we've been through. The least you could do is not leave me penniless. As for property, my demand was 50 of the company shares and the 2 properties under our names. The remaining 50, and the 2 cars were to be Finn's. He agreed. Zoe. You're too soft. You could have had him leave with nothing. He deserves it for cheating. Luna gritted her teeth in indignation. Sucking on her straw. I took a big sip of bubble tea. It used to be my favorite while writing. But now, it didn't have the same satisfaction. The reason I didn't do that was because after I got together with Finn, I was unhappy with my job. And he said to me, Zoe, if you're not happy, just quit and write novels at home. What if my books don't sell? At that time, I hadn't written anything in over a year. And I was afraid of losing my touch. First, I think you write really well. Second, if they don't sell, I'll support you. And finally, Zoe, having fulfilled my obsession. I just want you to be happy. It was because of his support and understanding that I picked up my pen again and started writing. So even now, after our divorce, I still have my career. Not just a soul-crushing 9-to-5 job. It was also because of his words that I gave Finn the money I earned from writing to fund his business venture. If not for Summer, our relationship would have been a perfect, mutual redemption romance. But unfortunately, there are no what-ifs. The divorce process was quick. When I went to the notary office to transfer the shares, I found out that Finn only had 80 of the shares left. What about the other 20? Finn didn't answer. But I could easily check the company's records on an app. Still. For now, hading förställt my session. I just needed my 50. He was too foolish to realize that once the shares were transferred to my name, I'd become the largest shareholder. But I had no intention or energy to run the company. After getting my shares, I sold 30 to a company veteran who was now on equal footing with Finn. The company wouldn't be dominated by a single person. And now, I was a wealthy, single, child-bearing woman in the tech world envied by everyone. But what I didn't expect was that just as I was about to pull away, someone delivered me a gift. Summer handed me a share transfer agreement. What's this about? I had already found out that the 20 of shares had been given to her. Finn was surprisingly generous. It's for you. As compensation. Summer took a sip of her coffee and smiled casually. Does this seem strange to you? I shrugged, beginning to understand. Summer didn't seem like the kind of person who'd take back her ex. But her actions clearly showed she'd interfered in my marriage with Finn. There must have been some dark secret behind it. I thought if I asked Finn for the 20 shares and we split everything 50-50 after the divorce, I'd be able to give you the shares. Then you'd have more than he does. Zoe, I guess I underestimated you. A smart person like you deserves better than Finn. The photos I sent you? I took them after I got Finn drunk. That fool really thinks we did something. Her sarcasm and disgust were clear in her eyes. I asked her why she did this. She pulled out a cigarette from her pack, lit it, then paused as if reconsidering. Because he killed our child. As I packed my bags at the hotel, I was still drenched in cold sweat. Summer had told me everything about her past with Finn. They met, got to know each other, and fell in love during college. Because Finn came from a poor family. To spare his pride, she hid her identity as a rich young lady. She secretly cohabited with him, living in a cramped basement. At first, though they lived frugally, they were happy. But things took a turn when Summer attended her childhood friend's birthday at an upscale club without telling Finn. She didn't expect that. As they were leaving the club, they'd run into Finn, handing out flyers. Finn's face dark, and as he took her back to the basement, no matter how she explained, he remained unmoved. The next morning, Summer woke up to find the door locked from the outside. And Finn had confined her in the basement. No matter how much she argued or softened her stance, he refused to let her out. When she tried to escape, he pushed her to the ground. What Finn didn't know was that Summer was already pregnant at the time. She felt the liquid running down her thigh and broke up with him. He refused to accept it. So Summer had to ask her family to rescue her when Finn was away. But by then, it was too late. She lost the child. On the day Summer left for abroad, Finn somehow found out and rushed to the airport to beg her to stay. But with several bodyguards by her side, he couldn't get close. He already suspected she was seeing a wealthy man. And this only confirmed his belief that she was leaving him for money. That was why their conversation at the stairwell during the reunion took place. Summer. I have money now. But why? Why did you come back only now? Finn must not have expected her return. But she came back with resentment. I didn't take Summer's shares. Even though she was also a victim. But what had I done wrong? I hated Finn. But I couldn't accept Summer either. She had 1,000 ways to take revenge on Finn. As my belly grew day by day, I fled to a secluded valley near the city, hoping to escape Finn's discovery. Away from the noise and distractions, I found peace in a small guest house. Writing my novel and picking dew every morning. Life was simple and free. A month later, I heard news about Finn and Summer again. Luna came to the guest house to find me, eagerly recounting Finn's dramatic life in the past month. Summer had told Finn about their child. And in order to make up for it, Finn gave her all his shares. Finn had made quite a bit of money in the past few years. Even without the company shares, his assets were enough for an average person to live comfortably for a lifetime. Then, Madame a low sigh, he proposed to Summer. Did she accept? I was a little surprised. By then, she had gained 50 of the company's shares, becoming its largest shareholder, fully capable of pushing Finn out. Who knows? Maybe she really was moved by Finn. Didn't you see? Finn went all out. renting 100 drones for a grand proposal on Valentine's Day. All the roses were flown in from abroad. But I knew Summer wouldn't care for such gestures. Sure enough. On the day of the engagement, Finn made the headlines. The headline read, CEO of a tech company. Willing to abandon wife and children for money. Climbs to marry Arab city's Summer family. At the engagement banquet, Finn pulled out an 8-carat dime and ring to propose to Summer. But she pulled her hand back. She said, "This ring is too small. It's not even enough to buy me a handbag." Finn stared at her in disbelief, watching as she turned on the projector to reveal her identity as the heir of a Summer family in B City. Before Finn could regain his senses, she played the recording of their conversation at the stairwell. "Finn, hadn't I felt my obsession? Don't forget you're already married. What? Do you want to have an affair with me?" A guest uploaded the spectacle to the internet. And Finn was soon at the center of a storm. It was a double-edged sword. He tried to harm others but ended up hurting himself even more. I shook my head at the news. Summer really was foolish. To get back at him, she revealed her mistress' identity too. But with her family standing, the internet was full of curses directed at Finn. When Luna came to see me, she told me that Finn had been hiding at home, not daring to step outside. Yes, in just 1 month, he lost both his career and love. Even his face. Karma. I guess. When my due date arrived, I moved into the hospital to prepare for labor. When the family signature was required, I intended to have Luna sign. But the doctor insisted it had to be a family member. When my mother arrived at the hospital, she kept muttering, "I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Not only do you want a divorce, but you were going to have a baby without telling us. What a disaster." Luna tried to defend me, but I tugged at her sleeve, shaking my head. It was fine. The labor process went smoothly. And the midwife brought the crying baby to me. "It's a girl. Just like you." When I was wheeled out of the delivery room, my parents and Luna were waiting outside. I smiled and told Luna, "I have a daughter. Zoe." "Finn." Luna looked at me gravely. My heart skipped a beat. "What happened to him?" He's dead." For a moment, I was in a daze, thinking I had imagined it due to exhaustion. But seeing my parents' equally somber expressions, I snapped back to reality. Finn had died of alcohol poisoning. He was found at home, already without a pulse. I looked at my baby, suckling in my arms, and thought, I always believed he wasn't fit to be your father. But now, it seems he truly can't be. I was discharged from the hospital after 3 days. I didn't go home. Nor did I return to the house with Finn. Instead, I had Luna help me buy a new place. My mother wasted no time scolding me, accusing me of abandoning the family just because I had money now. I didn't argue. I couldn't be bothered to. The word home had become a shackle for me, not a sanctuary. I sold both of the houses and transferred the money directly into my mother's account. She counted the zeros in the balance, smiled, and sent me off with a wave. Life with the baby went on at a leisurely pace. Whenever Luna had the time, she would come over to visit and help with the child. One day, I received a box of items, and at the same time, Summer called. "Zoe, did you get the things I sent you?" I opened the box to find a bunch of toys and a share transfer agreement. "You knew all along I didn't have a miscarriage." "Yes, having fulfilled my obsession. Only Finn would be naive enough to believe otherwise." "Keep the shares." "Zoe. I'm sorry." "All right." I accepted the shares and deleted Summer's contact information. The following year, during the Qingming festival, I went alone to Finn's grave. A bouquet of sunflowers was placed at the base. Clearly from someone who had just visited. I turned and searched around, spotting a golden glimmer not far off. I knelt down, placing the sunflowers to the side, and wiped the dust from the tombstone. "Finn, haven't fulfilled. I think I should tell you you have a daughter. I named her Nadera." The morning fog lingered. The green pines bathed in soft sunlight.